A slow, faceless pan across a tidy suburban living room. A lamp still glowing, a record player softly crackling, and a front door that seems to be waiting for someone who never came home. One night in 1992, 3 women walked into a house in Springfield, Missouri. The next morning, they were gone. No sign of a struggle, no ransom note, only questions and a file that would sit cold for decades. Title card: The Springfield Three, Missing, 1992. Ordinary evening, extraordinary silence. It was an ordinary evening for a mother and her 2 daughters who shared a home and the small rhythms of family life. Neighbors remembered lights on, a television tuned to late night, the kind of details you only notice when everything goes wrong. Cut to close-ups. A pair of shoes by the couch, a coffee mug half full, a framed family photo slightly tilted. The next morning, the house told a different story. Personal items left behind. Purses, keys, things people clutch when they're not planning to leave. The telephone wasn't off the hook. The front and back doors were locked from the inside. No forced entry. No obvious signs of a struggle. Cliffhanger beat for the first ad break. How do 3 people vanish without a trace from the place they feel safest? The discovery and the first hours. When relatives found the empty house, panic replaced confusion. Calls were made. Police arrived. Every second that passed felt like a small theft of certainty. Flashing patrol lights reflected on wet pavement. Officers taking statements. An evidence marker placed on a porch step. Investigators cataloged the scene carefully. They collected what little physical evidence there was and began the painstaking job of asking the question every family dreads. Who would want them gone, and why? Leads, witnesses, and early theories. Early on, the investigation spun out into many lanes. Neighbors reported seeing people and cars that night. An unfamiliar car near the house. A man knocking on the door earlier in the evening. But memory is slippery, and time turned some of those recollections into uncertainty. A corkboard with index cards, red yarn, and scribbled notes. Theories multiplied. A targeted abduction, someone known to the women, a crime of opportunity, even the chilling possibility of a serial predator. Each lead brought hope and then often disappointment. A tip that seemed like it might break the case later proved thin. A man was questioned. He had an inconsistent story, but without conclusive evidence, law enforcement could not charge him. The trail went cold again. The investigation unspools. Local police were joined by state investigators and later federal resources. They interviewed neighbors, tracked phone records, searched nearby waterways and woods, and re-interviewed witnesses as memories shifted. Maps with pins, a grid of faded photos, investigators walking line searches through brush. Over the years, the case drew national attention, offered rewards, and generated countless tips. Detectives pursued leads across county lines. Still, no bodies, no arrests that led to convictions, and no definitive answers about what happened that night. Red herrings and theories that won't die. When a case this cold attracts attention, it also attracts noise. Amateur sleuths and internet forums proposed names, motives, and elaborate scenarios. Some leads were promising, others were misdirection. The danger of this attention is that it can both help and harm. A new tip can break a case, But false accusations can ruin lives and derail investigators. List of plausible theories, present as theories, not facts. A stranger or strangers who took advantage of an unlocked moment. Someone known to the women with a grudge or secret motive. A robbery or dispute that escalated beyond control. A planned disappearance, less likely given the personal items left behind. Each hypothesis gained defenders and detractors. The case resisted neat explanations. A confession, a lead, and another dead end. Over the years, the file produced late-night calls, confessions that collapsed under scrutiny, and witnesses who recanted or who could not be located again. A man in a different state once claimed involvement, but his story could not be corroborated and investigators moved on. Visual. Court records stamping unfounded or no charge. Slow zoom on a folder labeled 1992. Missing persons. Those moments of false hope left families exhausted and investigators jaded, but not finished. The personal toll. The families of the missing lived in limbo. Birthdays came and went with empty chairs. Every strange knock on the door raised the pulse. For loved ones, uncertainty is a kind of punishment. No closure, no final phone call, no grave to visit. An aging mother looking at photos, a bedroom preserved as it was. A voicemail saved and replayed until the message wore thin. The human cost of a cold case extends far beyond the statutes and evidence room. It lives in anniversaries and in the small rituals of memory. New tools, new hopes. Advances in forensic science changed many cold cases across the country. DNA, genealogical research, and new databases offered fresh possibilities. The Springfield File, too, was revisited with new eyes and technologies. A forensic lab shot a genealogist's family tree on a screen, close-ups of samples being processed. Still, even with cutting-edge tools, answers are not guaranteed. Evidence from 1992 can be degraded, lost, or simply never collected in a way that benefits modern testing. 1. The most compelling twist, 2 competing endings. When a story stays unsolved this long, it tends to cleave into 2 endings you can't reconcile. The violent abduction that ends in the worst, and the desperate disappearance where the missing try to remove themselves and their lives slip away under new names. 2. The violent abduction. The simplest reading. Someone entered the house, subdued the women, possibly a single offender or a pair, and removed them without leaving overt signs of struggle. The locked doors were staged afterwards, or the departures were so quick that chaos didn't ripple outward. This theory is supported by the absence of any later contact and by suspicious cars and people reported that night. The planned vanish. The alternative. The women left voluntarily, perhaps under duress or fear, leaving personal items behind to make it look like a disappearance or to ensure their loved ones wouldn't follow. This is harder to believe because belongings were left behind, but people behave in unpredictable ways when frightened. Neither ending sits comfortably. Both carry the weight of what was and what might have been. The case today questions that keep pulling. The file remains open in different forms. Detectives still take tips. People still call on anniversaries. Key unresolved questions are: who was the last person to see them, and what did they really notice? Were there vehicles or faces missed in the initial canvass that could be identified from re-interviewing old witnesses? Was all evidence collected and preserved well enough for modern testing? What, if any, connections exist between this disappearance and other crimes in the region at the time? Help keep the story alive. Not for clicks, but to keep pressure on the case and to honor those left without answers. A call for memory, not sensation. 3 chairs at a table. 3 birthdays without candles. 3 files that insist on being opened again and again. For families and detectives, the Springfield Three are not an unsolved story. They are unresolved people. End shot. A slow pull away from the house at dusk. The porch light flicks off. The street returns to its ordinary quiet. If you have credible information, contact Springfield Law Enforcement. If you want more episodes like this, subscribe. And if you have a theory, keep it respectful. These are living families who deserve dignity.